Listen closely, Aries. Because if you're hearing this right now on December 27th, this moment didn't find you by accident. There's something different in the air tonight. Not loud, not chaotic, but unmistakably present. You've carried so much this year, quietly, brimming even when no one noticed something greater did. This isn't about promises. It's about timing. About a door you didn't force finally opening from the inside. So take a breath, drop into your body, and trust what you're feeling right now. If this resonates, leave a comment. Not for anyone else, for yourself, and stay with me. Because what's unfolding next has the power to change how you step into 2026. Alright, Aries, let me talk to you like I would if we were sitting across from each other right now. No rush, no noise, just this moment. December 27th has a different weight to it. You can feel it in the quiet between thoughts. In the way the day doesn't ask you to perform. It simply asks you to notice. You're standing at that strange edge of the year where the past hasn't fully let go and the future hasn't announced itself yet. And for once, you're not being pushed to act. You're being invited to listen. You've spent most of this year in motion, fixing, leading, holding things together when they felt like they might fall apart. Even when you were tired, especially when you were tired. And here's the part no one says out loud. You didn't lose your fire. You protected it. You learned how to keep it low and steady, how to carry it without burning yourself or anyone else. That wasn't weakness. That was wisdom arriving early. Tonight, there's a softer light around you. Not dramatic, not demanding, just clear enough to see what's been waiting quietly in the background. This is the kind of moment that doesn't shout. It doesn't force belief. It simply creates space. And in that space, something begins to rearrange itself inside you. You may notice memories drifting up. Things you thought you were done with. Not to pull you backward, but to show you how far you've already come. You're not here because you need saving. You're here because you're ready to receive something different. Something aligned, something that doesn't require you to fight for it. That's what makes this night feel unfamiliar. For once, you're not chasing the door. You're hearing it unlock. And I know there's a part of you that stays cautious. You've earned that. Life taught you to measure hope carefully. To trust your instincts more than promises. So don't force anything right now. Just let yourself breathe into the stillness. Let your shoulders drop. Let your thoughts slow down enough to notice what feels calm instead of urgent. This isn't about miracles appearing out of nowhere. It's about timing lining up after a long stretch of resistance. About effort finally meeting ease. You're allowed to want more, not from desperation, but from knowing your value has matured. And as this night unfolds, there's a gentle shift happening beneath the surface. Not obvious yet, but steady, like roots growing where no one can see them. In a moment, we're going to move a little deeper into what's been quietly responding to your patience, into the subtle signs that something is preparing to meet you halfway. So stay with me, not because you need answers, but because your intuition already recognizes the feeling. This next part doesn't arrive with urgency. It arrives like light through a window at dawn, soft, certain, and exactly on time. Alright, Aries, stay with me here, not because you need convincing, but because something inside you already leaned in. What's touching your life right now doesn't need a name. It doesn't need a label, or a belief system, or a rule book. You don't have to call it divine. You don't have to call it spiritual. Just notice how it feels. It feels like being held without hands. Like guidance without pressure. Like a quiet presence standing behind you, saying nothing, yet somehow making you feel less alone. This energy doesn't arrive with instructions. It doesn't tell you who to be or what to do next. It doesn't demand faith. It arrives softly, almost respectfully, as if it knows how much you've already carried. And the moment you stop resisting it, you realize it's not here to change you. It's here to remind you. Aries, you've spent so long being the strong one, the dependable one, the one who keeps moving even when your body asks for rest, and your heart asks for understanding. You didn't become that way by accident. Life shaped you there. Responsibility found you early, and you answered it, again and again. But somewhere along the road, strength became armor, and armor gets heavy when you never take it off. This energy isn't asking you to drop your guard all at once. It's simply showing you that you don't need to wear it every moment anymore. You might feel this as a pause, a strange calm, a sense that you don't have to push tonight. That's not weakness. That's your nervous system finally exhaling. Because here's the truth, Aries. You didn't survive this year by fighting harder. You survived by adapting, by learning when to step forward and when to endure quietly. That took courage of a different kind, the kind that doesn't get applause, the kind that reshapes you from the inside. And now, this presence is acknowledging that, not rewarding you, not testing you, acknowledging you. It's saying, without words, you've carried enough. You've learned enough. You don't need another lesson in pain to grow. You're not being handed something unearned. You're being allowed to receive what aligns. That's why this moment feels different. There's no rush, no drama, no demand for immediate action. Just a subtle sense that you don't have to prove yourself anymore. That your value doesn't need defending. That your strength is still there even when you rest. And maybe that's why you're here right now. Not to be told what's coming, but to feel yourself shift into a quieter confidence. The kind that doesn't shout, the kind that knows. As we keep moving forward together, the picture will become clearer. Not all at once, but gently, piece by piece. Because the next layer of this story isn't about effort. It's about recognition, about noticing how life begins to respond differently when you stop bracing for impact. So don't rush ahead. Don't try to interpret everything yet. Just stay present. Let the stillness do its work. What comes next isn't arriving to challenge you. It's arriving to meet you where you finally are. Alright, Aries. Let me stay right here with you. Because this part of the story asks for honesty. The quiet kind. The kind you rarely give yourself time for. The truth is, you were never weak this year. Not once. You were exhausted. There is a difference, even if the world never paused long enough to notice it. Over the past 12 months, you kept moving while carrying more than most people could see. You showed up when it would have been easier to disappear. You handled responsibilities that were never meant to be yours alone, and you did it without making noise about it. You learned how to fight silently, how to process disappointment without witnesses, how to keep your composure when being misunderstood felt heavier than failure ever did. There were moments when you stood in the middle of your own life and wondered how it became this hard. Not dramatic moments, just late nights, long pauses, that empty feeling that shows up when effort and reward stop speaking the same language. You asked yourself questions you never shared out loud. Why it always felt like you were the one adjusting. Why growth seemed to demand so much from you and so little from everyone else. Why even after doing the right thing, something still felt missing. And yet, you kept going. You did not collapse. You adapted. You found a way to function even when your inner world was asking for rest. That is not weakness. That is endurance. What matters now is not replaying the pain. It is recognizing what it shaped inside you. Every time you got back up without applause, something solid formed. Every time you chose restraint instead of reaction, your strength refined itself. Every tear you swallowed taught you what truly matters and what no longer deserves your energy. Nothing you lived through this year was random. Nothing was wasted. Even the moments that felt pointless were teaching you how to survive with grace, how to lead yourself when no one else knew how to carry fire without letting it burn you alive. And now, something subtle is shifting. Not loudly, not all at once, but steadily. December 27th marks a quiet recalibration. A moment where the weight you have been carrying begins to redistribute. Where effort and outcomes slowly start finding balance again. You may not see it yet. You may only feel it as a lightness in your chest. A sense that you are not pushing against life quite as hard as before. That is the sign, not because everything is suddenly perfect, but because the scale is no longer tilted against you. You are standing at the edge of a turning point, not a dramatic one, a real one. And as this night continues to unfold, something else begins to surface. A new awareness, a different rhythm. A realization that what comes next will not ask you to suffer to prove your worth. So stay present, stay gentle with yourself, because the story is not ending here. It is opening. And the next layer is not about what you endured. It is about how the world begins to respond now, that you no longer carry it alone. Alright, Aries, let this part land slowly, because the shift that's happening now doesn't announce itself with noise. It doesn't crash into your life like a storm. It arrives quietly. Almost politely. Real change rarely comes with fireworks. More often it shows up as timing that finally makes sense. You might notice it in the smallest ways. A message that comes when you weren't looking anymore. A conversation that feels different in your body. A moment where you realize you're no longer forcing things to move. That's how you know this is real. For you, Aries, this transformation isn't about pushing harder. You've already mastered that. This one begins when effort meets alignment. It's the call that reaches you right after you decided to stop waiting. The opportunity that appears once you made peace with where you are. The person who steps into your life without asking you to perform or prove anything. And suddenly, you're not knocking on doors anymore. You're standing inside the room. There's relief in that, but also a strange unfamiliarity. Because part of you learned to survive by resistance, by momentum, by always being one step ahead of disappointment. So when life starts responding instead of resisting, it can feel disorienting at first. You might catch yourself wondering if it's too easy, if something else is about to go wrong, if you should brace yourself just in case. That instinct makes sense. It kept you alive when things were heavy. But this moment isn't asking you to brace. It's asking you to notice. December 27th marks a quiet opening. Not the kind that needs celebration. The kind that changes direction. A door opening from the inside feels different than one you had to force. There's no exhaustion attached to it. No proving. No lingering doubt about whether you deserve to be there. You didn't get here by luck. You arrived because your timing caught up with your growth. That's why this moment matters. Not because everything instantly transforms, but because how you move forward does. From here on, you're not entering 2026 with the same posture. You're not charging into the year with your armor on full display. You're stepping in with discernment. You begin to sense when to act and when to wait. When to speak and when silence carries more power. When something is worth your energy and when it simply isn't anymore. That's a different kind of strength. The kind that doesn't burn out. The kind that lasts. And as this timing unfolds, you may realize something else. Life isn't asking you to become someone new. It's responding to who you already are now. More grounded, more selective, more aware of what truly aligns with you. This is how the next chapter starts. Not with urgency, with clarity. So don't rush this feeling. Let it settle into your nervous system. Let your body learn that movement doesn't always require tension. Because what's coming next isn't about sudden miracles. It's about sustained change. The kind that reshapes your path quietly, steadily, and for the long run. And as the night continues, another realization begins to form. If timing is finally working with you, then the future isn't something you have to chase anymore. It's something that's already turning toward you. Alright, Aries, let this settle into you. Because what you are standing inside of right now is bigger than a single night. It stretches forward. Quietly, patiently. This isn't the kind of message you listen to and forget by morning. It's the kind that stays with you. The kind that slowly changes how you make decisions without asking for permission. What's forming around you tonight is a long arc, a cycle that doesn't rush, a foundation that takes its time to set. The energy you're feeling now isn't dramatic. It doesn't try to impress you. It's steady, grounded, almost practical in the way it moves. And that's how you know it's real. Because this moment isn't shaping the next few weeks of your life. It's shaping the next several years, 4, 5, maybe 6, not in obvious ways, not all at once, but in the quiet decisions you'll make when no one is watching. In the moments where you pause instead of reacting. In the way you choose what deserves your fire and what no longer does. Your work begins to feel different, not heavier, clearer. You stop chasing validation and start creating value that feels honest to you. You become more selective with your time, your energy, your attention, not because you care less, but because you finally care about the right things. Your place in the world starts to shift too, subtly at first. You notice people listening more closely, opportunities responding more naturally, doors opening without resistance. But the most important change doesn't happen outside of you. It happens in how you see yourself. You stop defining your worth by how much you can endure. You stop measuring your strength by how much you can carry alone. You begin to understand that leadership doesn't always mean standing at the front. Sometimes it means knowing when to step back and let alignment do the work. This is the maturity of fire, the kind that warms instead of burns, the kind that lasts. And with that maturity comes a choice, a quiet one, but a powerful one. To move into the next cycle, something has to be released. Not painfully, not dramatically, just gently. An old role you no longer need, an identity built around survival, a habit of proving yourself to spaces that were never meant to hold you. You've outgrown that version of yourself. And deep down, you already know it. That's why this night feels reflective instead of restless. Why you're not being pushed to act. Why you're being invited to feel. Because the foundation being laid now requires honesty. With yourself, with your limits, with your desires. And as you allow that honesty to surface, you may feel a strange sense of relief. Like setting down something you didn't realize you were holding. This is not the end of a chapter. It's the solid ground beneath the next one. So take your time here. Let the weight redistribute. Let the future approach you at a pace that feels sustainable. Because what comes next isn't asking you to fight harder. It's asking you to trust differently. And as we move forward together, you'll start to notice something else rising. Not urgency, not pressure, but a quieter kind of strength. One that knows exactly what it's ready to carry next. Alright, Aries, let's talk about the weight you're finally allowed to set down. For a long time, you learned how to be the one who carries everything. The one people lean on, the one who keeps moving when others hesitate. You became reliable because you had to be. Strong because there was no other option. That role didn't come from ego. It came from necessity. From moments when no one else stepped forward. So you did. Again and again. But here's the quiet truth most people never tell you. Just because you can carry it all, doesn't mean you're meant to anymore. The version of you that's forming now doesn't need to prove strength through endurance. It doesn't need to lead by exhaustion. It doesn't need to earn rest by suffering first. This is where things soften, not collapse. Soften. You're not losing your edge by becoming gentler with yourself. You're refining it. You're learning how to use your fire with precision instead of force. There's a difference between holding everything together and holding only what truly belongs to you. And lately, you may have noticed something shifting inside, a subtle resistance to roles that once felt natural, a quiet question rising when responsibility lands on your shoulders. Is this really mine to carry? That question is wisdom, not selfishness, not weakness. When you release the need to be everything for everyone, space opens. Not empty space, aligned space. That's when doors move differently. They don't require pushing, they respond to permission. You stop forcing outcomes. Stop managing other people's emotions. Stop holding yourself accountable for things that were never your responsibility. And in that release, something surprising happens. Support finds you. Opportunities recognize you. Life meets you halfway. This isn't because you demanded it, it's because you allowed it. The old role taught you survival. It taught you resilience. It served its purpose. But you don't need to live there anymore. The new version of you knows how to lead without carrying the entire structure on your back. Knows how to influence without overextending. Knows how to receive without guilt. You begin to trust that what's meant for you doesn't need to be wrestled into existence. It responds to clarity, to boundaries, to self-respect. This is not about becoming passive. It's about becoming intentional. You still have fire. It's just no longer burning you from the inside out. And right now, in this moment, that fire is resting, gathering, preparing for a different kind of expression. As you let go of the roles that drained you, you create room for what actually nourishes you. Room for collaboration instead of control. Room for flow instead of force. Room for being seen without performing. This is why things feel quieter. Why the urgency has softened. Why you're not being pushed to act yet. You're not behind. You're arriving. And as this sense of permission settles in, another movement begins to form beneath the surface. Not about effort, not about identity, but about what finally begins to return to you once you stop carrying what was never yours to hold. Stay right here. Because what comes next flows toward you naturally, when your hands are finally free to receive. Alright, Aries, let me speak to you gently here. Because this part of the journey isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself slowly, the way a tide turns when no one is watching. Life has its own circulation. What moves outward does not disappear. It remembers where it came from. And you, Aries, have poured so much of yourself forward over the years. Time, effort, care, energy that never fully returned to you when you needed it most. You showed up early. You stayed late. You gave more than was required, not because you wanted praise, but because it was in your nature to try. There were moments when it felt unbalanced, as if you were constantly investing into spaces that couldn't meet you halfway. as if your generosity moved faster than the world's ability to respond. That can leave a mark, a quiet doubt, a wondering if giving was ever worth it. But here's what changes now. The flow begins to curve back, not dramatically, not all at once, but unmistakably. You may feel it as small confirmations at first. A door reopening that once closed without explanation. A conversation that finally acknowledges your contribution. An opportunity that recognizes your experience instead of questioning it. This isn't something you chase, it notices you. And that's the difference. You don't have to explain yourself anymore. You don't have to justify your worth. The value you carry becomes visible in the right environments. You'll know because it feels easier. Not effortless, but honest. Like your presence fits without adjustment. Recognition begins to feel natural instead of overdue. Support arrives without strings attached, and the energy you once gave freely starts returning in more sustainable forms. This doesn't mean you suddenly receive everything at once. It means the exchange becomes fair. You begin to feel replenished instead of drained, seen instead of tolerated, invited instead of waiting on the outside. That invitation matters, because for a long time, you stood near doors that weren't meant for you, knocking, waiting, wondering when your turn would come. Now the dynamic shifts. You're no longer trying to gain entry. You're being welcomed, not because you demanded it, not because you proved something one last time, but because your alignment changed. You stopped overgiving. You stopped shrinking to fit. You stopped offering your fire to spaces that couldn't hold it, and life responded. This is the return phase, not repayment in a transactional sense, but restoration, a rebalancing of energy. An acknowledgement of everything you contributed without asking for anything back. You may notice yourself receiving without guilt now, without the instinct to give more just to deserve it. That's growth. That's healing. And as you step into this flow, something important becomes clear. You are not late. You were preparing. Every delay refined you. Every disappointment redirected you. Every moment of feeling unseen taught you where you truly belong. So let yourself receive, without apology. Without overthinking. Because you are no longer standing outside the threshold of your life. You are being invited into rooms that recognize your presence immediately. And as you accept that invitation, another realization begins to surface. What you receive now is not just about opportunity or recognition. It's about readiness. Because the final movement of this story is not about what comes back to you, but about who you become once you realize you never had to beg for your place. Stay with me, because the next layer is quieter still, and it holds the key to how all of this truly settles inside you. Alright, Aries, if you're still here with me, let's slow this moment down together. Nothing about this asks you to believe blindly. No one is asking you to hand over your power. This is simply an invitation to listen to what's already alive inside you. Because somewhere beneath the noise of the year, beneath the roles you've played and the battles you've survived, there's been a quiet signal trying to reach you. Not loud, not urgent, just steady. That feeling you get when something feels true before it makes sense. That subtle pull in your chest. That calm recognition that doesn't need proof. That's what matters now. Tonight isn't asking you to change your life in a single decision. It's asking you to change your posture toward it. To stop rushing. To stop bracing. To stop assuming the next chapter will demand the same sacrifices as the last. You've done enough proving. So take this moment as it is. Let your breath deepen. Let your shoulders soften. Let yourself acknowledge the road you've already walked. Not with regret, with respect. You've learned how to stand on your own, how to adapt, how to move forward even when clarity was missing. Those lessons stay with you. They don't disappear. But they no longer need to define how hard things must be. What's opening now doesn't require force. It responds to awareness, to honesty, to trust in your own internal timing. And that trust doesn't look dramatic. It looks like listening when your body says pause. It looks like choosing peace without explaining yourself. It looks like allowing good things to arrive without questioning whether you deserve them. That's the shift. December 27th is not a finish line. It's a hinge, a moment where something turns quietly and changes direction. Where the weight of the past loosens its grip just enough for the future to step closer. You don't have to name it. You don't have to announce it. You don't even have to understand it fully yet. Just notice how it feels to stand here without urgency. If this message has reached you, it's not because you needed saving. It's because you were ready to hear something gentler than survival. Ready to move forward without armor. Ready to trust your own sense of timing. Ready to let the next chapter unfold with a little more grace. And that readiness doesn't mean you have all the answers. It means you're willing to listen inward instead of searching outward. So tonight, give yourself permission to rest in the in-between. To honor what's ending without clinging to it. To welcome what's approaching without fear. You are not stepping into the unknown empty-handed. You're stepping in with wisdom earned, strength refined, and a heart that knows when something aligns. If this resonates, trust that feeling, not because someone told you to, but because you recognize yourself in it. And as we let this moment settle, there's no rush to move on. The next chapter doesn't begin with noise. It begins with clarity. And that clarity is already finding you, Aries. Alright, Aries. Before you go anywhere, listen to this part carefully, because if this message stayed with you until now, it means something inside you already recognized the truth. Not loudly, but clearly. This wasn't just a story you listened to. It was a reminder of who you are becoming, of how far you've come without needing permission, of how much lighter the road ahead can be when you finally trust yourself. You don't need to rush the next step. You don't need to explain your growth to anyone. What's meant for you is already aligning in ways you can't fully see yet. And here's the quiet surprise. The moment you stop doubting your own timing, life starts responding faster than you expect. So if something in this message touched your heart, leave a comment, not to convince anyone else, but to mark this moment for yourself. If you're ready to keep walking this path with clarity and calm, make sure you're subscribed, because this journey doesn't end here. The next message is already forming. Trust your instincts, Aries. They've carried you this far for a reason. Stay grounded, stay open, and remember, you're not late. You're right on time. I'll see you in the next message.